Step away from the vehicle. Where'd you steal this Maserati?
I didn't steal anything. I own this car.
Yeah, well, you don't look like it. Let me see some ID.
Congratulations, that's unlawful detention. Hope you like paperwork, because this is going to cost your department a lot.
All right, buddy, hands behind your back.
You really want to add false arrest to the list?
The body cam jolts as the officer storms toward the gas pump. No context, no warning, no justification. Just an officer charging straight at a black man refueling a silver Maserati, as if he's already guilty of something. Soft daylight hits the frame, but nothing about this moment feels soft. What happened during this ordinary stop at a gas station, all because one officer decided a black man couldn't possibly own a high-end car, would ignite a nationwide firestorm. His voice barking with certainty. "Step away from the vehicle! Where did you steal this car?" His voice again, louder. "Show me your hands! Don't get back in that car!" And then the moment that changed everything. The calm man turns, pulls out his legal credentials, and the body cam records every humiliating second of the officer's baseless accusation. That single act of profiling, captured in real time, did more than expose one bad cop. It triggered a civil rights lawsuit, ended a law enforcement career, and cost the department $5 million. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light. But why did the officer double down? And what did he never expect the body cam to reveal about the man he accused of stealing his own car?
Phoenix, Arizona, a Shell station on Camelback Road in Scottsdale's affluent corridor. 11:20 a.m. on a Saturday in July. Temperature 107 degrees. The kind of desert heat where even brief stops require air conditioning recovery. This neighborhood was luxury car territory. Maseratis, Teslas, BMWs, common here. Unremarkable. Median household income exceeded $120,000. Expensive vehicles weren't anomalies. They were expected. Jared Williams had stopped for gas on his way home from a morning workout. He was 41 years old, senior partner at Morrison & Klein, one of Phoenix's most prestigious corporate law firms. His specialty was civil rights litigation and constitutional law. He graduated from Yale Law School, clerked for a federal appellate judge, and built a reputation as one of the Southwest's most formidable trial attorneys. He drove a 2022 Maserati Quattroporte, silver with black leather interior, purchased new for $98,000. Registration current, insurance active, everything legal, proper, documented. He'd pulled up to Pump 7, swiped his Platinum American Express, selected premium fuel, and begun filling his tank. Standard Saturday routine, nothing unusual. Nothing that should have attracted attention. But Officer Derek Hayes had been watching. Hayes was 29 years old, 4 years with the Scottsdale Police Department. His personnel file contained notations that should have triggered concern. Demonstrates tendency toward assumption-based policing. Multiple complaints regarding pretextual stops. Recommend additional training on implicit bias. Those recommendations had been filed and forgotten, the complaints dismissed, and Hayes continued patrolling with assumptions that were about to destroy his career. He'd spotted Jared from across the parking lot, a black man, mid-40s, expensive car, and in Hayes' mind, shaped by bias he'd never acknowledged and enabled by a department that had never corrected him, those factors combined into immediate suspicion. The body cam shows Hayes' approach. He exited his patrol car with aggressive body language. Shoulders forward, hand near his weapon, stride purposeful and confrontational. No casual observation, no routine check. Immediate assumption of criminality. Jared was standing beside his Maserati, fuel nozzle in hand, watching the digital display when Hayes' voice cut through the morning air. "Step away from the vehicle. Where did you steal this car?" The body cam captured Jared's reaction perfectly. Not panic, not guilt, just immediate recognition of what was happening, followed by controlled anger. He turned slowly, deliberately, his voice carrying professional authority. "Excuse me, I own this car. I am Jared Williams. This is my registered vehicle." Hayes stepped closer, his hand still hovering near his service weapon. "Sure you are. Show me your hands. You're not getting back in that car." The body cam shows Jared's jaw tighten. His hands were already visible, one holding the fuel nozzle, one at his side. There was no threat, no furtive movement, no justification for the aggressive commands. "Officer, I'm refueling my vehicle at a gas station. I have done nothing to justify this confrontation. I'm a licensed attorney, and I'm advising you right now that you're engaging in racial profiling without probable cause." Hayes' response revealed everything. "I don't care who you say you are. Step away from the vehicle. Now." Jared set the fuel nozzle back carefully. He reached into his pocket, moving slowly, narrating his actions, and pulled out a leather credential holder. He flipped it open, displaying a gold badge with Federal Bar Association engraved across the top. The body cam captured the badge clearly. It also captured Hayes' face. No recognition, no reconsideration, no acknowledgement that he might be wrong. Jared's list dropped, carrying the weight of someone who just watched their constitutional rights trampled. "That's it, white man. False detention, civil rights violation. You just assaulted a federal lawyer. You will hear from me soon." What would you do if an officer approached you like this with zero evidence? Officer Hayes stared at the badge for 3 seconds. The body cam shows his eyes moving from badge to face and back, processing, calculating, realizing perhaps that this stop wasn't going as assumed. But instead of de-escalating, instead of verifying ownership through registration or his patrol car's computer, instead of acknowledging his mistake, Hayes doubled down. "I need to verify this vehicle isn't stolen. You're going to wait here while I run the plates." Jared's response was immediate and legally precise. "Officer, you've detained me without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. I have provided identification demonstrating I'm a licensed attorney. My vehicle registration is in the glove compartment. The VIN is visible through the windshield. You can verify ownership in 30 seconds. Instead, you're continuing this detention based on nothing but the color of my skin and your assumption that a black man can't own a luxury vehicle." Hayes turned toward his patrol car, keying his radio. "Dispatch, I need a 1028 and 1029 on Arizona plate." Before he could finish, Jared interrupted. "I'm not consenting to any search or extended detention. You have no legal basis to continue this stop. I'm documenting this encounter, and I will be filing a formal complaint and federal lawsuit."
Hayes spun back. "Sir, if you don't comply, I will arrest you for obstruction." "Obstruction of what?" "I've answered your questions. I've provided identification. I've explained vehicle ownership. What am I obstructing?" The body cam captured the moment Hayes realized he'd backed himself into a corner. He'd initiated contact based on assumption. He'd accused Jared of theft without evidence. He'd ignored professional credentials. And now he was threatening arrest to justify actions he couldn't defend. A woman at the adjacent pump had been recording on her cell phone since Hayes' initial approach. Her footage, later obtained by Jared's attorneys, captured what the body cam missed. Several other customers had stopped to watch. Some were recording. Others were whispering, clearly uncomfortable. One elderly white man approached cautiously. "Officer, I've been here the whole time. This gentleman has been calmly putting gas in his car. He hasn't done anything wrong." Hayes turned sharply. "Sir, step back. This is police business." "But you're accusing him of stealing his own car. I saw him pay with a credit card. Don't you think—" "Sir, final warning. Step back or I'll cite you for interference." The man retreated, shaking his head, but kept his phone out, recording. Hayes returned to Jared. "Stay right here. Don't move." He walked to his patrol car and spent 4 minutes running Jared's plate. The body cam audio picked up dispatch response clearly. 1029 shows 2022 Maserati Quattroporte, silver, registered owner Jared Alexander Williams, address matches license, no wants, no warrants, registration current. Hayes sat in his vehicle for another minute after receiving that confirmation. The body cam footage shows him gripping his steering wheel, jaw clenched, clearly frustrated that his assumption had been proven wrong. But he still didn't release Jared. Instead, he exited and approached again. His demeanor shifted from aggressive to defensive. "Sir, I'm going to need to see your driver's license and registration." Jared's voice carried controlled fury. "Officer, you just received confirmation that this vehicle is registered to me. You've already seen my professional identification. You have zero legal justification to continue this detention. Release me immediately, or I will add unlawful detention to the civil rights complaint I'm filing. I'm conducting a routine traffic stop. You pulled into a gas station and accused me of theft without probable cause. This isn't a traffic stop. This is racial profiling. And every second you continue this detention strengthens my case." Hayes's hand moved to his handcuffs. "Sir, place your hands behind your back. You're being detained for failure to comply." The body cam captured Jared's expression. Not fear, but disbelief. "I've complied with every lawful order. What I haven't done is accept your unconstitutional harassment. You cannot arrest someone for refusing to accept rights violations." Hayes reached for Jared's arm. That physical contact, captured on body cam, cell phone video, and the gas station security system, was the moment harassment became assault and battery, the moment a civil rights complaint became a federal lawsuit, the moment Officer Derek Hayes' career effectively ended. Why do you think some officers escalate, even when the truth is right in front of them?
Jared pulled his arm away from Hayes' grasp, not violently, just a natural reaction to unwanted contact. But Hayes interpreted that movement as resistance. "Stop resisting!" "I'm not resisting. I'm refusing to consent to unlawful arrest. There's a difference." Hayes grabbed Jared's wrist with both hands and attempted to force his arm behind his back. The body cam shook violently as the two men struggled. Jared trying to maintain his freedom, Hayes trying to impose control he had no legal authority to exercise. The woman recording shouted from across the lot, "He's not resisting! Leave him alone!" Another voice joined her. "This is police brutality! Someone call 911!" Hayes keyed his radio while still attempting to restrain Jared. "Code 3, I need immediate backup at Shell Station on Camelback. Subject is resisting arrest. Possible 1010. Dispatch responded immediately. "Copy, units responding. Confirm nature of original stop." Hayes didn't answer because he couldn't. There was no original stop, no traffic violation, no reasonable suspicion, just a black man at a gas pump and an officer's assumptions. Jared's voice remained remarkably controlled despite the physical altercation. "Officer Hayes, I have your name from your badge. You are violating Arizona Revised Statute 132508 regarding unlawful imprisonment. You are violating 42 U.S.C. Section 1983 regarding deprivation of rights under color of law. You're creating a record of constitutional violations that will cost your department millions of dollars." The recitation of statute numbers gave Hayes pause. His grip loosened slightly. Someone citing specific legal codes while being detained suggested they weren't bluffing about legal knowledge. 2 additional patrol cars arrived within 90 seconds. 4 more officers stepped out, taking in the scene. Hayes struggling with a well-dressed black man at a gas station, multiple civilians recording, no obvious criminal activity. Sergeant Linda Morrison, a 16-year veteran, approached cautiously. "Hayes, what's the situation?" "Subject was operating a vehicle I suspected was stolen. He's refused to comply and became physically resistant." Morrison looked at Jared, noting his business casual attire, his calm demeanor despite being restrained, and something else. A leather badge holder that had fallen to the ground during the struggle.
She picked it up, examined it, and her expression changed immediately. "Sir, are you an attorney?" Jared's response was directed at Morrison, but intended for the body cams now recording from multiple angles. "I'm Jared Williams, senior partner at Morrison & Klein, specializing in federal civil rights litigation. I stopped to purchase fuel. Officer Hayes approached with zero probable cause, accused me of vehicle theft, despite this being my registered vehicle, ignored my professional credentials, unlawfully detained me, and just committed assault and battery by placing hands on me without legal justification. I have witnesses, video evidence from multiple angles, and will be filing a federal lawsuit seeking damages for constitutional violations."
Morrison's face went pale. She turned to Hayes. "Did you run the plates?" "Yes, they came back clean, registered to him." "Then why is he still detained?" Hayes had no answer. Morrison's voice dropped, tight with controlled anger. "Release him! Now!" Hayes removed his hands. Jared stepped back, straightening his shirt, his eyes moving methodically across the scene, counting officers, noting badge numbers, observing witnesses, still recording. Morrison addressed him directly. "Mr. Williams, I apologize for this encounter. You're free to go." Jared's response was calm, measured, devastating. "Sergeant, I don't need information on how to file the complaint. I know the process intimately. I've litigated dozens of civil rights cases against law enforcement agencies. What I need is for you to preserve all body cam footage, dispatch recordings, and security video from this location, because I will be filing a federal lawsuit under Section 1983, and all of that material will be evidence in discovery. You'll be receiving a preservation notice from my office by Monday." Morrison nodded slowly. "Understood, sir." Jared returned to his Maserati, completed fueling, paid for his gas, and drove away. But not before every officer on scene had watched him enter his vehicle with keys, start the engine without any signs of theft, and drive off legally. The cell phone videos began uploading to social media before Jared had even left the parking lot. Within 2 hours, #MaseratiLawyer was trending. By evening, the footage had 4 million views. By Monday morning, it was national news. When do you personally think the officer realized he messed up? Jared Williams walked into his law firm Monday morning carrying a file that would cost Scottsdale PD $5 million. His partners were waiting. They'd seen the viral videos and knew exactly what was coming. The federal lawsuit filed in the District of Arizona was comprehensive and designed not just to compensate Jared, but expose systemic problems. Named defendants: Officer Derek Hayes, Sergeant Linda Morrison, Police Chief Thomas Reynolds, and the City of Scottsdale. Claims included Fourth Amendment violations, 14th Amendment equal protection violations, assault and battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and municipal liability under Monell for failure to train.
But it was the evidence that made city attorneys realize they faced catastrophic exposure. Jared's firm had assembled video from 7 angles: Hayes' body cam, 4 cell phone videos, gas station security, and traffic cameras showing Hayes' initial observation from across the lot. When played in sequence, the footage told an undeniable story. Hayes had spotted Jared, made immediate assumptions, and approached with predetermined accusation. He'd ignored credentials, dismissed explanations, and escalated despite confirmation his suspicions were baseless. The lawsuit revealed something more damaging. Jared's team filed public records requests for Hayes' complete personnel file, all complaints, and departmental communications regarding luxury vehicle enforcement. The personnel file showed a pattern. Over 4 years, Hayes had initiated 127 traffic stops. 89 involved drivers of color, 70%. 34 involved luxury vehicles, 27%. 23 involved both minority drivers and luxury vehicles, 18%. The disparity was statistically significant and legally indefensible. Hayes was stopping minority drivers at rates wildly disproportionate to Scottsdale's demographics.
The complaint history was equally damning. Complaint number 1, 2019. Hispanic male driving BMW stopped and questioned about ownership. Alleged racial profiling. Internal Affairs, officer's inquiry within discretionary authority. Dismissed. Complaint number 2, 2020. Black female driving Mercedes asked repeatedly where she worked and how she afforded it. Alleged harassment. Internal Affairs, questions were investigatory, no policy violation. Dismissed. Complaint number 3, 2021. Black male driving Porsche detained 20 minutes while officer verified ownership despite registration being immediately available. Alleged racial profiling. Internal Affairs, duration was reasonable. Dismissed. 3 complaints, 3 minority drivers, 3 luxury vehicles, 3 dismissals. The pattern was documented but never addressed. Then, Jared's attorneys obtained internal department emails exposing systemic encouragement of exactly Hayes's behavior. An email chain from 2020 between supervisors discussed aggressive enforcement in high-end commercial areas, with specific mention of targeting vehicle theft rings by scrutinizing luxury vehicle operators. The thread included a message from a training sergeant. Officers should be particularly attentive to younger drivers and minority drivers operating high-value vehicles, as these may indicate theft or criminal financing.
That email, official department communication, essentially instructed officers to profile minority drivers in luxury cars. It created an environment where Hayes's assumptions weren't aberrations, but applications of informal policy. When media obtained those emails through Jared's records requests, public response was immediate and furious. Civil rights organizations condemned the policy. Community leaders demanded resignations. Protests erupted outside headquarters. The Scottsdale City Council held an emergency session. The mayor, facing intense pressure, promised thorough investigation and accountability. Officer Hayes' deposition, conducted 4 months later, became viral when excerpts were released. Jared's attorney systematically dismantled every justification Hayes offered. Officer Hayes, what specific articulable facts led you to suspect Mr. Williams had stolen the vehicle? The vehicle was expensive, and he didn't seem like someone who would own it. What do you mean he didn't seem like someone who would own it? I mean, it was a judgment call based on my experience. Based on his race? No, based on multiple factors. What factors other than his race? Hayes had no answer. Officer Hayes, you've stopped 23 drivers of color operating luxury vehicles. In how many did you discover the vehicle was actually stolen? I'd have to check records. I can tell you. 0. Your experience has a 0% accuracy rate for the assumption you made about Mr. Williams. The transcripts were devastating. Hayes contradicted himself repeatedly, admitted he never checked registration before approaching, and acknowledged he'd assumed theft based solely on seeing a black man driving it. But the most damaging revelation came when Jared's attorneys obtained Hayes's text messages with other officers. In a group chat from 3 weeks before the incident, Hayes had written, "Another day, another minority in a car they can't afford. Time to do some investigating." A colleague responded, "Gotta love Scottsdale, where the criminals drive better cars than we do." Hayes replied with a laughing emoji. Those text messages, showing conscious bias, premeditation, and departmental culture enabling discrimination, made the case impossible to defend. Do you think the department knew exactly what it was encouraging officers to do?
The city of Scottsdale's defense collapsed within 6 months. Their attorneys initially argued qualified immunity, that Hayes' actions, even if wrong, didn't violate clearly established rights. But federal case law on pretextual stops based on racial profiling was well established. The text messages destroyed any remaining defense. They proved Hayes' stop wasn't a good faith mistake, but conscious discrimination.
They showed departmental culture encouraging such behavior. They demonstrated supervisors knew about these attitudes and did nothing. Settlement negotiations began. The city's initial offer was $500,000 plus policy reforms. Gerard rejected it within hours. His counter-demand was $8 million plus comprehensive reforms, including federal monitoring, termination of Officer Hayes and supervisors who dismissed complaints, and creation of independent civilian oversight. Negotiations stretched over 2 months. During that time, 3 more lawsuits were filed by other minority drivers stopped by Hayes. Potential liability was growing exponentially. Political pressure became unsustainable. The city attorney acknowledged they had no path to victory at trial. The final settlement represented one of the largest racial profiling settlements in Arizona history. $5 million paid to Gerard Williams for constitutional violations, emotional distress, and punitive damages. $750,000 allocated to 3 other verified victims of Hayes' discriminatory stops. Immediate termination of Officer Derek Hayes with permanent POST certification revocation. Forced resignation of 2 supervisors who dismissed complaints without proper investigation. 3-year federal consent decree requiring independent monitoring of all traffic stops involving luxury vehicles. Mandatory implicit bias training for all officers with annual recertification. Implementation of early warning system to flag officers with disproportionate stop patterns. Creation of independent civilian review board with authority to investigate and recommend discipline. Prohibition on using vehicle value or driver demographics as stop factors without additional criminal indicators. Quarterly public reporting of traffic stop data by officer, race, vehicle type, and outcome. The total package exceeded $7 million when accounting for monitoring costs and reform implementation. Officer Derek Hayes was escorted from the station the day settlement was announced. His POST certification permanently revoked. His name entered the National Decertification Database. His law enforcement career ended at age 29.
He offered no apology, made no statement. His attorney released brief comment. Officer Hayes regrets the situation, but maintains he acted based on his training. The video evidence, text messages, and deposition transcripts told a different story. Supervisors who dismissed complaints also faced consequences. Lieutenant Marcus Green was demoted to patrol officer. Captain Jennifer Walsh took early retirement rather than face termination, but individual accountability was only part. The consent decree mandated systemic changes reshaping how Scottsdale PD conducted traffic enforcement. Every stop involving vehicles valued over $50,000 now required documentation of specific criminal indicators beyond vehicle value. Officers with more than 3 racial profiling complaints faced automatic review. Bodycam footage from all luxury vehicle stops would be audited monthly by independent reviewers. At the settlement press conference, Jared delivered a statement capturing both personal experience and broader implications. I'm a senior partner at a major law firm. I have 3 Ivy League degrees. I've argued before federal courts. I built a career on understanding constitutional rights. And yet none of that protected me when Officer Hayes decided a black man couldn't possibly own a Maserati. None of my credentials, professional status, or knowledge prevented him from detaining me, assaulting me, and humiliating me in public. If this can happen to me, someone with resources, legal expertise, and public platform, imagine what happens to people without those advantages. This settlement is justice for me, but it's also a message. Racial profiling has consequences. Departments that enable discrimination will pay. Officers who act on bias will lose their careers. And victims will find accountability, even when the system tries to protect those who violated their rights. Community leaders praised the settlement while acknowledging ongoing challenges. The NAACP representative stated, "This victory came because Jared had video evidence, legal expertise, and public support.
But how many others are profiled every day without those resources? The reforms are important, but real change requires departments to address the bias that makes these reforms necessary. What change do you think would actually prevent cases like this? Jared Williams returned to his law practice, but the experience fundamentally changed his perspective. He'd spent years litigating civil rights cases, representing clients who'd been profiled, detained, discriminated against. He'd understood intellectually what they experienced, but until that July morning, he hadn't truly felt it. The humiliation of being accused of theft while refueling your own car. The frustration of showing credentials immediately dismissed. The fear when an officer's hand moves toward their weapon. The helplessness of knowing you're being violated but having no power to stop it in the moment. The rage at being treated like a criminal for existing while black. He still drives the Maserati, but now he carries multiple forms of identification. He keeps his phone accessible to record encounters. He's hyper-aware of how police perceive him, and he experiences anxiety every time he sees police nearby. The $5 million settlement provided compensation. The reforms created accountability. Hayes' termination delivered justice, but none of it erases the fundamental truth Jared learned that day. In America, for black people, authority is never automatic. Respect must be demanded, rights must be defended, and justice must be fought for. The body cam replays in silence. Jared simply fueling his own car, then Hayes storming in. The assumption, the accusation, the violation, and finally, the still frame of Hayes' panicked face after learning Jared was a federal lawyer. Because to some officers, authority is automatic, but respect, rights, and justice, those must be fought for. Before we go, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light.
Ma'am, I smell marijuana. That gives me probable cause to search your vehicle. Step out now.
I haven't been smoking, officer. You do not have probable cause. I advise you to check your body cam before you violate my Fourth Amendment rights.
Get out. You think you're smart? I told you what I smell.
What happened to this woman during a simple traffic stop? All because one officer claimed he smelled marijuana would not only spark national outrage, but ignite a lawsuit that shook an entire police department. Quick flashes, his voice barking probable cause, her voice steady, unbreakable. You are violating my rights. A hard cut to the body cam catching every second. What you're about to see is the exact moment a police officer crossed a constitutional line, a moment that would explode across social media, dominate headlines for weeks, and force the city to pay $12 million after the truth was exposed. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps bring more truth to light. But why was this officer so desperate to search her car? And what didn't he expect the body cam to capture?
Riverside County, California. Magnolia Avenue on a Tuesday afternoon in September. Temperature 76 degrees, light traffic, clear visibility. A well-maintained suburban street where nothing unusual should happen, where a routine drive home from work should be exactly that. Routine. Officer Ryan Whitmore had been with the Riverside Police Department for 4 years. His personnel file contained notations that supervisors had chosen to ignore, aggressive enforcement patterns, multiple complaints regarding traffic stops, recommend additional training on de-escalation and probable cause standards. Those recommendations were never implemented. The complaints were never seriously investigated. And on this particular Tuesday, that institutional failure was about to cost the city $12 million. Whitmore was running routine patrol when he spotted a silver Mercedes sedan. The driver was a black woman, professionally dressed, obeying all traffic laws. Speed limit was 45. She was doing 43. She signaled every lane change. She maintained proper following distance. There was no legitimate traffic violation, no equipment malfunction, no erratic driving. But Officer Whitmore had already decided what this stop was about, and what he said next would set in motion a chain of events that would expose years of unconstitutional policing. Do you think some officers already know what they're going to do before they even reach the window?
The body cam captured everything in soft daylight. Crystal clear audio and video. No technical malfunctions, no gaps in recording. Just undeniable documentation of what happened next. Ma'am, I smell marijuana. That gives me probable cause to search your vehicle. Step out now. Angela's hands remained on the steering wheel. Her expression didn't change. No panic, no guilt, just immediate recognition of what was happening. She'd heard stories about this tactic. Fabricated probable cause, pretextual searches, officers using subjective claims about odors to justify searches they had no legal basis to conduct. She looked directly at the body cam mounted on Whitmore's chest, then met his eyes. Her voice was calm, measured, carrying the professional authority of someone who understood constitutional law. I haven't been smoking, officer. You do not have probable cause. I advise you to check your body cam before you violate my Fourth Amendment rights. The body cam captured Whitmore's face clearly. No surprise, no reconsideration, just anger at being challenged. His hand moved to the door handle. Get out. You think you're smart? I told you what I smell. He yanked the door open before Angela could respond. She remained seated for a moment, her voice still controlled, still addressing both the officer and the camera that was recording everything. There is nothing in this car. This illegal search is being recorded. Whitmore leaned into the door frame, his face inches from Angela's, his voice rising. We'll see about that. Get the hell out. The body cam audio picked up every word, every threat, every violation of procedure. Whitmore had skipped every standard protocol. He hadn't asked for license and registration, hadn't explained the reason for the stop, hadn't requested permission to search, hadn't followed any of the steps that distinguish lawful policing from constitutional violation. Angela stepped out of the vehicle slowly, deliberately, maintaining her composure even as her rights were being trampled. She stood beside her car, hands visible, making no threatening movements, and watched as Officer Whitmore prepared to conduct a search based on probable cause that didn't exist. If the first thing a cop says is a lie, how would you react?
Officer Whitmore keyed his radio, his voice carrying false authority. Dispatch 4 Adam 7, conducting vehicle search at Magnolia and Riverside Drive. Strong odor of marijuana detected upon approach. That radio transmission, time-stamped at 2:34 p.m., would later become critical evidence, because the body cam footage recording simultaneously told a completely different story. The timestamp showed Whitmore standing beside Angela's vehicle, the driver's door open, positioned at least 5 feet from the interior. The wind direction, captured by trees swaying in the background, was blowing from the vehicle toward the street, away from his position. His body language showed no physical reaction to any odor, no wrinkling of the nose, no leaning closer to investigate, no hand gestures suggesting olfactory stimulus. He was creating an official record of probable cause that video evidence would prove was fabricated. Angela remained standing on the curb, her hands clasped in front of her, her voice steady. Officer, you're creating a false record. I don't smoke marijuana. I never have. There is no odor because there is no marijuana in my vehicle. Whitmore ignored her and began his search. He started with the center console, pulling out items carelessly, sunglasses, registration papers, a phone charging cable, and tossing them onto the passenger seat. His movements were aggressive, rushed, the actions of someone searching with predetermined expectation rather than methodical investigation. The glove compartment yielded nothing but the owner's manual and insurance documents. The door pockets contained nothing but a reusable water bottle and some napkins. The back seat was empty except for a gym bag containing workout clothes and a pair of running shoes. Angela watched in silence for 30 seconds, then addressed the body cam directly, her voice carrying the measured tone of someone documenting evidence. Officer Whitmore claimed to smell marijuana before my windows were even fully lowered. He's now searching my vehicle without consent and without actual probable cause. Every compartment he's opening is empty. Every claim he's made is false. This is being recorded from multiple angles. That last statement would prove prophetic.
because Angela's vehicle was equipped with a dash cam, a small camera mounted behind her rearview mirror that she'd installed after reading about false arrests and fabricated traffic stops. That camera was recording everything from a different angle, capturing details the body cam couldn't see. Whitmore moved to the trunk. He opened Angela's briefcase and rifled through legal documents, confidential client files that he had no authority to examine. He unzipped the gym bag and dumped its contents onto the trunk floor. He even checked the spare tire compartment, pulling up the mat and examining the space beneath. 15 minutes had passed. 15 minutes of invasive searching. And the result? Absolutely nothing. No marijuana, no drug paraphernalia, no pills in unmarked bottles, no suspicious substances, no evidence of any illegal activity whatsoever. But Officer Whitmore wasn't done, because admitting he'd found nothing meant admitting his probable cause was fabricated, and his ego wouldn't allow it. Your nervousness tells me you're hiding something. People who have nothing to hide don't act this way. Angela's response was immediate and pointed. I'm not nervous, officer. I'm angry. There's a difference. I'm angry that you fabricated probable cause. I'm angry that you're violating my constitutional rights. And I'm angry that you're wasting my time searching for something that doesn't exist. Whitmore's jaw tightened. He returned to the driver's area and searched again, the same compartments he'd already checked, looking for something, anything that could justify what he'd already done. The body cam showed his growing frustration. His movements became more erratic, his breathing elevated. He was searching not to find contraband, but to avoid the consequences of admitting he'd initiated an illegal search based on a lie. Should citizens be required to step out when the reason is clearly fake?
23 minutes had passed since Officer Whitmore initiated the traffic stop. 23 minutes of Angela standing on a public sidewalk in broad daylight while her vehicle was ransacked. 23 minutes of humiliation, violation, and constitutional abuse, all captured on multiple cameras. Whitmore pulled everything from Angela's vehicle. The contents of her center console were scattered across the passenger seat. Her gym bag's contents were strewn across the trunk. Her briefcase was open, confidential legal documents exposed to the elements. Her registration and insurance papers were crumpled on the dashboard. The body cam captured the scene in undeniable detail. Every compartment empty, every search yielding nothing, every claim about marijuana odor proven false by the complete absence of any contraband. But instead of acknowledging his mistake, instead of apologizing and allowing Angela to leave, Whitmore doubled down. The smell was definitely present when I approached. My training allows me to detect marijuana odor at significant distances. Your defensive attitude and refusal to cooperate indicate consciousness of guilt. Every statement was false. The body cam footage, reviewed later by multiple experts, showed no indication of odor detection. Whitmore's approach showed no hesitation, no investigation of smell, no confirmation of his claimed sensory perception. He'd stated his conclusion before any investigation occurred, and Angela's behavior showed no signs of guilt, only justified anger at rights violations. She'd cooperated completely, stepping out when ordered, not interfering with the search, simply documenting the violation verbally for the recording. A passing driver slowed, his window lowering. His voice carried concern. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need help?" Angela turned toward him. "I'm being subjected to an illegal search based on fabricated probable cause. If you have a phone, please record this." Whitmore moved quickly toward the passing vehicle. "Sir, keep moving. This is official police business." The driver hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, but eventually drove on. His departure wasn't retreat, it was strategic, because he immediately pulled over a block away and began recording on his cell phone, capturing the broader scene that the body cam's limited field of view couldn't document. Whitmore returned to Angela's vehicle for a third search of compartments he'd already searched twice. This time he removed the floor mats, checked under the seats with his flashlight, even examined the air vents. His determination to find something, anything, was palpable. Angela addressed the body cam again. "Officer Whitmore has now searched my vehicle 3 separate times. He has found nothing because there is nothing to find.
He is continuing this detention despite complete absence of evidence. This is harassment, this is racial profiling, and this is unconstitutional. At this point, is this just racism or abuse of power or both?
What Angela didn't know, when Officer Whitmore hoped would never be discovered, was that she wasn't his first victim. She was simply the first with the resources, knowledge, and documentation to fight back effectively. The Riverside Police Department's Internal Affairs Division had files on Officer Whitmore dating back 3 years, files that supervisors had reviewed and dismissed, files that documented a pattern so clear it should have triggered immediate investigation and discipline. Complaint number 1, filed March 2020. Marcus Johnson, black male, age 29, stopped for marijuana odor. Vehicle searched. Nothing found. Complaint alleged racial profiling and fabricated probable cause. Internal Affairs finding? Officer detected odor in good faith. No evidence of discriminatory intent. Complaint dismissed. Complaint number 2, filed August 2020. Keisha Williams, black female, age 34, stopped for marijuana odor. Vehicle searched, nothing found. Complaint alleged harassment and rights violation. Internal Affairs finding? Officer's sensory perception cannot be objectively disproved. Subject's aggressive demeanor justified thorough search. Complaint dismissed. Complaint number 3, filed January 2021. David Chen, Asian male, age 41, stopped for marijuana odor. Vehicle searched. Small amount of marijuana found in center console. Arrest made. No complaint filed. Complaint number 4, filed June 2021. Tamara Brooks, black female, age 27, stopped for marijuana odor. Vehicle searched. Nothing found. Subject detained for 35 minutes. Complaint alleged excessive detention and discriminatory targeting. Internal Affairs finding? Traffic stop duration was within acceptable parameters. No evidence of bias. Complaint dismissed. 5 complaints in less than 2 years. 4 involving drivers of color. 4 searches finding nothing. 0 disciplinary action taken. But the pattern extended beyond complaints. A data analyst reviewing traffic stop records would later discover that Officer Whitmore had conducted 93 traffic stops during his 4-year tenure. Of those 93 stops, 67 involved drivers of color, 72%. 48 involved claims of marijuana odor, 52%. 43 resulted in vehicle searches, 46%. 6 resulted in actual marijuana seizure, 14% success rate on searches. The numbers told an undeniable story. Whitmore was targeting minority drivers at rates wildly disproportionate to their representation in Riverside County. He was claiming marijuana odor in more than half his stops, a rate 400% higher than department average. And his searches were yielding contraband in only 14% of cases, suggesting his probable cause determinations were either wildly inaccurate or deliberately fabricated. But supervisors had ignored these statistics. They'd dismissed complaints. They'd filed away concerns. They'd prioritized protecting an officer over protecting constitutional rights. And Angela Hayes was about to make that institutional failure very expensive. Should the "I smelled marijuana" still be legal probable cause in 2025?
The moment Angela's attorney, Marcus Chen, reviewed the body cam footage, he knew this case was different. He'd represented dozens of clients in traffic stop disputes. Most came down to conflicting accounts, the officer's word against the driver's word, with courts typically deferring to law enforcement. But this case had something most didn't: irrefutable video evidence of fabrication. Chen played the footage frame by frame, noting critical details. At timestamp 2:34:17, the moment Whitmore claimed to have detected marijuana odor, the body cam showed him standing beside the vehicle, windows only partially lowered, positioned at an angle where airflow from the interior would not have reached his position. At timestamp 2:34:22, when Whitmore radioed dispatch claiming strong odor of marijuana detected upon approach, the body cam showed him still standing outside the vehicle, door closed,
No physical proximity to the interior where any odor would have originated. At timestamp 2:34:45, when Whitmore ordered Angela out of the vehicle, the Bodycam's audio pickup showed ambient street noise, traffic sounds, and wind, but no evidence of Whitmore taking any action to confirm or investigate the smell he claimed to have detected. Chen hired Dr. Patricia Gomez, a forensic video analyst with expertise in police body cam interpretation. Her analysis was devastating. Officer Whitmore shows 0 physiological indicators of odor detection. When humans detect strong odors, especially unexpected ones, we exhibit involuntary responses. Nasal flare, facial expression change, slight recoil or orientation toward the source. Officer Whitmore shows none of these indicators. His approach is linear, his expression unchanged, his body language consistent with predetermined action rather than reactive investigation. Chen also hired Dr. James Morrison, an atmospheric scientist, to analyze the environmental conditions. His report was equally damning. Based on wind direction, air temperature, vehicle ventilation patterns, and officer positioning captured in the body cam footage, any odor emanating from the vehicle interior would have dispersed away from Officer Whitmore's position. For him to have detected marijuana odor under these conditions would have required concentration levels indicating active smoking, which body cam footage clearly shows was not occurring. But the most devastating evidence came from comparing timestamps. Whitmore claimed he smelled marijuana upon approach, but the body cam showed he'd decided to search the vehicle before Angela had even fully lowered her windows. His probable cause claim came before any opportunity to detect odor existed. He was lying. The body cam proved it. And that lie was about to cost him everything. Chen filed a comprehensive motion to suppress evidence in the citation case Whitmore had issued Angela for unsafe lane change, a violation the dashcam clearly disproved. But more importantly, he filed a federal civil rights lawsuit that would expose the entire pattern. The lawsuit included video comparison evidence. Chen assembled footage from 3 different Whitmore stops involving marijuana odor claims. When played side by side, the pattern was undeniable. Identical body language, identical verbal claims, identical search procedures, and in 2 of the 3 cases, identical results. Nothing found. If body cams didn't exist, what do you think would have happened to a woman like her?
The federal lawsuit filed in the Central District of California was a masterclass in civil rights litigation. Attorney Marcus Chen had assembled evidence that made the case virtually impossible to defend. The named defendants were Officer Ryan Whitmore, individual capacity, Sergeant James Torres, supervisory failure, Police Chief David Martinez, administrative liability, and the City of Riverside, municipal liability under Monell Doctrine. The claims included violation of Fourth Amendment rights, unreasonable search and seizure, violation of 14th Amendment rights, equal protection or racial discrimination, false arrest and unlawful detention, intentional infliction of emotional distress, municipal liability for failure to train, supervise, and discipline, pattern and practice of civil rights violations. But it was the evidence section that made the city's attorneys realize they were facing catastrophic liability. Exhibit A, body cam footage showing fabricated probable cause. Exhibit B, Angela's dash cam showing the same encounter from different angle. Exhibit C, cell phone video from passing motorist showing duration of stop. Exhibit D, traffic stop data showing Whitmore's discriminatory patterns. Exhibit E, internal affairs files showing dismissed complaints. Exhibit F, expert testimony proving odor detection was impossible under the conditions. Exhibit G, comparative video analysis showing pattern across multiple stops. The city's initial defense strategy centered on qualified immunity, arguing that even if Whitmore's actions were wrong, they didn't violate clearly established constitutional rights. But federal case law on pretextual stops and fabricated probable cause was well established. Multiple circuit courts had ruled that officers cannot claim immunity when inventing facts to justify searches. Depositions began 6 months after filing.
Whitmore's deposition lasted 8 hours and destroyed any remaining defense. Under oath, he couldn't explain the discrepancies between his claims and video evidence. He couldn't articulate what marijuana smell was like or how he'd detected it under the documented conditions. He changed his story multiple times, first claiming he smelled it from 10 feet away, then revising to 5 feet, then claiming he'd smelled it through the window before Angela lowered it. His attorney tried damage control. Officer Whitmore believed in good faith that he detected marijuana odor based on his training and experience. Chen demolished that claim. Officer Whitmore, you've testified that you completed drug recognition training in 2019, is that correct? Yes. And that training taught you that marijuana odor detection requires proximity, correct? Yes. The body cam shows you standing 6 feet from the vehicle when you made your claim. That contradicts your training, doesn't it? The smell was strong enough to detect from 6 feet away through partially open windows on a windy day? Silence. Officer Whitmore, in your 4-year career, you've claimed to detect marijuana odor in 48 separate traffic stops, correct? If that's what the records show. And in 42 of those stops, your searches found no marijuana. That's an 88% false positive rate. How do you explain that? Sometimes people hide it. Sometimes they dispose of it before I search. Or sometimes, Officer Whitmore, you fabricate probable cause to conduct searches you have no legal justification for. The deposition transcripts became public record. Media outlets ran segments highlighting the contradictions. Community organizations organized protests outside Riverside Police Headquarters. The pressure intensified daily. Then the breakthrough came from an unexpected source. 3 more victims, all black drivers, all stopped by Whitmore, all searched based on marijuana odor claims, all findings nothing, came forward with their own dashcam footage and documentation. The case was no longer about one illegal stop. It was about systematic constitutional violations spanning years. A federal judge reviewed the evidence and issued a preliminary ruling that sent shockwaves through the department. The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Fourth Amendment violations based on fabricated probable cause. This court finds sufficient basis to support claims of both individual misconduct and municipal liability for failure to address documented patterns of discrimination. The city's attorneys calculated potential liability if the case went to trial. Between Angela's case and the 3 additional plaintiffs, they were facing exposure exceeding $30 million. A jury that saw the video evidence would likely award punitive damages. The department would be subject to federal monitoring. The political fallout would be devastating. Settlement negotiations began in earnest. Should officers like this ever be allowed back into law enforcement?
Angela Hayes returned to her corporate law practice, but the experience changed her fundamentally. She still drives the same silver Mercedes, but now she tenses every time she sees police lights. She still wears professional attire, but she's hyper-aware of how others perceive her. She still knows her rights intellectually, but she understands viscerally how little those rights meant when Officer Whitmore decided to violate them. The $12 million settlement made headlines. The reforms provided some accountability, but Angela will never fully recover from that September afternoon when she was criminalized for doing nothing more than driving while black. She's channeled her experience into advocacy. She serves on the Civilian Oversight Board created by the Consent Decree. She speaks at law schools about civil rights litigation. She mentors young attorneys interested in police accountability work. She's transformed her victimization into a platform for change. The Bodycam footage from her stop is now used in police training academies nationwide as an example of what not to do. It appears in law school civil rights courses. It's cited in appellate briefs arguing against qualified immunity. It's become a teaching tool that's likely prevented similar violations. But Angela knows the work isn't finished. Riverside was forced to change because she had resources and documentation. But there are hundreds of cities where officers still use fabricated probable cause to target minority drivers. There are departments where complaints are still dismissed without investigation. There are victims who don't have the ability to fight back. Officer Ryan Whitmore's career ended. His reputation was destroyed. His name became synonymous with racial profiling and abuse of power.
but he never apologized, never acknowledged wrongdoing, never expressed remorse for the dozens of people whose rights he violated. The $12 million settlement delivered justice, financial compensation for constitutional violations. The reforms changed practices, real accountability measures that didn't exist before. The oversight provided transparency, civilian review that didn't exist before. But none of it erases what Angela experienced. None of it undoes the humiliation. None of it removes the trauma that surfaces every time she sees flashing lights. Because this case wasn't just about one fabricated smell of marijuana during one traffic stop. It was about a system that enabled Officer Whitmore for 4 years, a system that dismissed 12 separate complaints from people who didn't have resources to fight back, a system that required viral video and $12 million in damages before delivering basic accountability. She did everything right, stayed calm, knew her rights, spoke clearly, and still, she was targeted. This wasn't a smell. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a lie caught on camera. A lie that cost Officer Whitmore his career. A lie that cost the city $12 million. A lie that exposed systematic civil rights violations spanning years. The body cam doesn't lie. The dash cam doesn't lie. The pattern doesn't lie. And the $12 million settlement stands as proof. When officers fabricate probable cause to target people based on race, when departments ignore complaints and enable abuse, when systems prioritize protecting officers over protecting rights, there will be consequences. Angela's case represents victory, but it also represents failure. Failure that it took this long, cost this much, and required this level of proof before anyone took action. The real question isn't whether the settlement was large enough. The question is how we prevent the next Angela Hayes, the next Ryan Whitmore, and the next department that looks away while constitutional rights are systematically violated.
Well, where do you think you're going? This area's restricted.
I just showed you my clearance. Step aside.
Yeah, anyone can print a badge. You don't even look like it.
I don't have time for this. I'm retrieving evidence for a court order.
Did I stutter? Back up, lady.
Lena Porter, state attorney.
The body cam snaps on to a blinding hallway glare. No setup, no pause, just instant conflict. A black woman in a tailored suit stands firm in the center of the frame, her composure tight as steel. Yet a rookie cop throws his body in front of her like a human barrier, fueled by ego and something far uglier. He crowds the lens, postures, tests her. You can feel the shift the moment he decides she doesn't belong here. Quick flashes, her controlled breath, his puffed-up stance, the air tightening between them. Then she raises something that should have ended the entire interaction. A gold credential that gleams under the fluorescent lights, cutting through the tension like a blade. But instead of stepping aside, the rookie doubles down, challenging her authority, her position, and even her right to stand in the space she's already cleared to enter. The camera catches the exact second disbelief turns into fury, and professionalism turns into a promise of consequences. What happens next didn't just end a rookie's career. It ignited headlines, triggered a $10 million settlement, and left the entire department scrambling to explain why their newest officer thought he had the power to block the state attorney herself. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit that like and subscribe button. Stories like these need to be heard. Your support brings more truth to light. But what made this rookie so bold, and how did his own body cam become the evidence that destroyed him?
Miami-Dade County Justice Building, Florida. 3rd floor, restricted evidence wing. 4:15 p.m. on a Wednesday in November. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Polished marble floors reflecting institutional authority. The kind of building where prosecutors, judges, and law enforcement navigate overlapping jurisdictions with established protocols and mutual professional respect. Usually, Lena Porter was 41 years old, chief state attorney for Miami-Dade County's Public Corruption Unit. She'd been with the state attorney's office for 14 years, rising from junior prosecutor to heading one of the most politically sensitive divisions in Florida.
Her current caseload included a major bribery case involving 2 city council members, a police captain, and a contractor accused of rigging municipal contracts worth $8 million. The case was scheduled for trial in 9 days. That afternoon, she'd received emergency notification that newly discovered evidence, financial records seized from the contractor's office, had been transferred to the restricted evidence wing for processing. Time was critical. The defense was filing motions to suppress. She needed to review the documents immediately to prepare prosecution strategy. She arrived at the evidence wing entrance at 4:12 p.m., her state attorney credentials clearly visible on a lanyard around her neck, her briefcase containing the court order authorizing evidence access, her phone showing email confirmation from the Evidence Control Unit supervisor approving her entry. Officer Marcus Hayes was with her, a 16-year veteran with the State Attorney's Office Security Division who'd escorted dozens of prosecutors through this exact process hundreds of times. The third-floor security checkpoint was normally staffed by experienced officers familiar with the building's regular personnel. But that afternoon, due to shift coverage gaps, the post was manned by Officer John Reeves, 23 years old, 3 months with Miami-Dade Police, recently assigned to courthouse security as his first solo posting. Reeves had minimal training for the assignment. His academy education covered street patrol, traffic enforcement, and arrest procedures. But courthouse security protocols, evidence handling regulations, and recognition of prosecutorial authority, that received a 2-hour orientation he'd completed 4 days earlier. The body cam footage shows Lena approaching the checkpoint with professional efficiency. She's carrying her briefcase, walking with purpose, her credentials visible. Hayes is beside her, also displaying his security badge. Standard procedure: 2 authorized personnel seeking routine evidence access. Reeves stepped directly into their path, his body language aggressive from the first moment. "Whoa, where do you think you're going? This area is restricted." Lena stopped, her expression showing mild surprise but professional patience. She lifted her credentials, holding them at eye level. "I just showed you my clearance. I'm State Attorney Lena Porter. This is Officer Hayes from our security division. We're here to access evidence under court order." The body cam captured Reeves' face clearly. No recognition, no professional courtesy. Just immediate dismissiveness tinged with something else, the assumption that this black woman in a suit, despite her credentials and explanation, couldn't possibly have legitimate authority. "Anyone can print a badge. You don't even look like it."
The statement hung in the air, heavy, coded, unmistakable in its implication. Hayes' voice carried warning. "Officer, I've worked security in this building for 16 years. Ms. Porter is Chief State Attorney for Public Corruption. Verify her credentials through your dispatch if you have concerns, but do not block authorized personnel from performing their duties." Reeves ignored him, his attention fixed on Lena. His voice rose. "I'm retrieving evidence for a court order. You need to step aside immediately." Reeves moved closer, puffing his chest. "Did I stutter? Back up, lady." Hayes stepped between them, his voice dropping to controlled authority. "Officer Reeves, I'm instructing you as senior security personnel to verify and allow access. You're currently in violation of Florida Statute 843.02, obstruction of justice. If you do not comply immediately, I will have you arrested and charged." That threat, delivered by someone who actually had the authority to follow through, should have shocked Reeves into compliance. Instead, it triggered his ego's final desperate defense. "You threatening me?" His voice cracked with indignation. "You're not even supposed to be here." 3 security cameras captured different angles of the hallway. The footage would later show Lena standing calmly, with credentials displayed, Hayes positioned professionally to her left, Reeves blocking their path with increasingly agitated body language, and several staff members who'd emerged from offices to witness the confrontation.
One staff member, a paralegal named Jennifer Martinez, had begun recording on her phone. Her footage captured audio the body cam missed.
hushed conversations among witnesses expressing disbelief at Reeves' behavior. Hayes made one final attempt at de-escalation. "Officer, I'm going to reach for my phone to call your supervisor directly. Do not interpret that movement as a threat." He slowly pulled his phone and dialed. The call connected to Sergeant Linda Morrison, Reeves' direct supervisor. Hayes explained the situation clearly, concisely, professionally. Morrison's response was immediate. "Put Reeves on the phone." Reeves refused to take it. "I'm handling the situation." The body cam captured Morrison's voice through Hayes' phone speaker, loud enough to be clearly audible. "Officer Reeves, this is a direct order. Verify the credentials and allow passage immediately. State Attorney Porter has full authorization to access that wing." Reeves's face flushed red. His hands were shaking. He'd been publicly contradicted by dispatch, by senior security, and now by his own supervisor. Every authority figure was telling him he was wrong, and instead of accepting correction, his ego demanded validation. His voice rose to near shouting, "This is my checkpoint. I determine who passes." Lena exchanged a glance with Hayes. Her expression showed not fear, but weary recognition. She'd seen this before. The entitled officer, the abuse of power, the racism disguised as protocol. She'd prosecuted cases built on exactly this behavior. She pulled out her phone and began recording. "Officer Reeves, badge number 4729. You are currently obstructing a state attorney in performance of official duties, ignoring directives from your chain of command, and creating an incident that will result in formal complaints and potential criminal charges. I am documenting this encounter for—" "Don't record me." His hand shot out toward her phone. Do you think he would have acted the same way if Lena wasn't a black woman in power? What happened in the next 7 seconds was captured from 4 different angles. Reeves' body cam, security camera 3A mounted on the ceiling, security camera 3B at the end of the hallway, and Jennifer Martinez's cell phone video. When played side by side in subsequent legal proceedings, the footage told an undeniable story of assault and battery committed by a law enforcement officer against a state official. Reeves lunged toward Lena's phone, his movement sudden and aggressive. Hayes stepped forward instinctively, putting himself between them. That movement, protective, professional, completely reasonable, triggered Reeves's final catastrophic decision. "This is your last warning. Back up."
Lena stood her ground, her state attorney credentials still held high in her left hand, her phone recording in her right. "I am the state attorney. Move!" Ree's hand shot out and connected with Lena's shoulder. The shove was violent. Not a touch, not a guide, but forceful propulsion designed to move her body backward. The security camera footage shows her stumbling, her briefcase falling, her body tilting off balance. She fell backward, her shoulder and hip impacting the marble floor with sickening force. Her head snapped back but didn't hit. She'd managed to tuck her chin at the last instant, training from years of self-defense classes preventing worse injury. The body cam captured Reeves' immediate response. Not horror at what he'd done, not concern for whether she was injured. Justification. "Stop resisting! Stop resisting!" But Lena wasn't resisting. She was on the ground, stunned, her credentials scattered beside her, her phone still recording from where it had slid across the floor. Hayes dropped to his knees beside her. "Miss Porter, don't move. Are you injured?" Multiple voices erupted simultaneously. Jennifer's cell phone video captured staff members shouting, "He just assaulted her! Someone call 911! What the hell is wrong with you?" A security guard who'd been monitoring cameras came running from the command post. He took one look at Lena on the ground, at Reeves standing over her, and his face went pale. "Oh my God, that's the state attorney!" Reeves' expression shifted, his face registering to delayed recognition and growing horror. He took a step back, his hands rising. She wasn't authorized. She wasn't supposed to." Hayes helped Lena to a sitting position. His voice was tight with controlled fury. "You just committed assault and battery on a chief state attorney. Don't say another word. Don't move. Don't touch anything." Lena's voice, though shaken, carried absolute authority. "All footage is to be preserved immediately. Building security, lock down all recordings from this hallway for the past 30 minutes.
Officer Hayes, contact Internal Affairs and file formal complaint for assault, obstruction of justice, and violation of state officials' authority. And someone call my office. I need assistant state attorneys here within 15 minutes. The security guard helped Lena to her feet. She was visibly shaken, but composed, her years of courtroom experience keeping her focused. Her shoulder throbbed, her hip would bruise significantly, but she was conscious, mobile, and absolutely determined that this encounter would have consequences. Reeves reached for his body cam. The security footage captured him attempting to turn it off, but courthouse body cams had auto-lock features preventing deactivation during incidents. His attempt failed, preserved forever on the recording that would destroy his career.
Within 7 minutes of Lena hitting the floor, the third floor of the Miami-Dade County Justice Building transformed into controlled chaos. Multiple supervisors converged simultaneously. Sergeant Morrison responding to Hayes' call. Internal Affairs investigators responding to automated incident alerts triggered by the assault report, and Building Security Command scrambling to secure all evidence and footage. Reeves stood frozen, his face cycling through emotions: panic, defiance, fear, confusion. He tried to speak as Morrison arrived. "Sergeant, she wasn't authorized. I was following protocol." Morrison cut him off with a raised hand. "Don't say anything. You're under investigation. Step away from everyone and wait for IA." But Reeves couldn't stop defending himself. "I'm telling you, she tried to force entry into restricted." Sergeant Morrison's voice dropped to barely controlled fury. "Officer Reeves, the woman you just assaulted is Chief State Attorney Lena Porter. She oversees prosecution of public corruption cases, including police misconduct. She had full authorization, confirmed by Security Command, by myself, and by Officer Hayes, who has 16 years in this building. You ignored directives from your chain of command. You refused to verify credentials. You escalated a routine authorized access into physical assault. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done?" The words seemed to finally penetrate. Reeves' face went pale. "I didn't know she was—" Morrison's response was sharp. "You didn't verify. That's the problem." Internal Affairs Lieutenant Marcus Chen arrived with 2 investigators. He took immediate command of the scene, his voice carrying administrative authority. "Officer Reeves, you're suspended, effective immediately, pending investigation. Surrender your service weapon and badge. Everyone who witnessed this incident will provide statements. All footage is being preserved under evidence chain of custody." Lena had moved to a nearby office where building medical staff were evaluating her injuries. Paramedics arrived despite her insistence she didn't need ambulance transport. They documented visible bruising forming on her shoulder, checked for signs of concussion, and recommended hospital evaluation that she declined in favor of being examined by her personal physician. But she insisted on remaining in the building long enough to provide her official statement. She sat in a conference room, her shoulder throbbing, and dictated a formal complaint that would become the foundation of both criminal charges and civil lawsuit. At approximately 4:15 p.m., I arrived at the third-floor evidence wing checkpoint to access materials under authorized court order. I presented my state attorney credentials clearly to Officer John Reeves. He refused to acknowledge my authority, made racially charged comments suggesting I didn't look like someone who should have access, ignored directives from Security Command and his supervisor to verify credentials, escalated the encounter through aggressive verbal and physical intimidation, and ultimately committed assault and battery by shoving me forcefully, causing me to fall and sustain injury. This assault was unprovoked, unjustified, and represents both criminal misconduct and civil rights violation. Lieutenant Chen asked the critical question, "Ms. Porter, in your professional opinion as state attorney, do you believe racial bias played a role in Officer Reeves' actions?" Lena's response was measured but unequivocal. "Officer Reeves told me I didn't look like someone authorized for access despite seeing my credentials. He escalated with a black woman showing state authority in ways I have never witnessed officers do with white prosecutors. His assumption that my credentials were false, his refusal to verify despite multiple directives, and his ultimate use of force all indicate a pattern consistent with racial profiling and bias against black authority figures. Within 2 hours, local news had the story. By evening, it was national. By the next morning, it had exploded across social media with hashtag state attorney assault and racism in uniform trending. The footage, all 4 angles, was obtained through public records request and played on every network. The visual was damning. A professional black woman in business attire, showing credentials, being shoved by a white rookie officer who'd ignored every directive to stand down. District Judge Martha Williams, who was overseeing the corruption case Lena was prosecuting, issued a rare public statement. The assault on Chief State Attorney Porter is an affront to the rule of law and the dignity of this court. Those who administer justice must themselves be subject to justice when they commit violence against officers of the court. The Miami-Dade police chief held a press conference within 24 hours. His statement was defensive and inadequate. "We are investigating the incident thoroughly. Officer Reeves has been suspended pending review. We take allegations of misconduct seriously." That statement lasted less than a day before public pressure forced a stronger response acknowledging the severity and promising accountability. Do you think the department reacted fast enough, or only because they realized who she was?
The investigation into Officer John Reeves quickly expanded beyond individual misconduct to expose systemic failures in training, supervision, and accountability. Internal Affairs obtained Reeves' complete training records. What they found was damning. His academy performance evaluations included multiple warnings, demonstrates difficulty with de-escalation scenarios, tends toward assumption-based rather than evidence-based decision-making. Recommend additional training before field assignment. Those recommendations were noted and ignored. Staffing shortages meant Reeves was pushed through to active duty with minimal remedial training. His courthouse security orientation, the training that should have prepared him to recognize and properly interact with prosecutors, judges, and other legal personnel, consisted of a 4-hour classroom session. No practical scenarios. No assessment of his ability to verify credentials or handle authority challenges. Just PowerPoint slides about building layout and radio codes. Investigators also uncovered Reeves' history of complaints that predated the assault on Lena. During his 3 months of service, 2 formal complaints had been filed. Complaint number 1, aggressive interaction with a Hispanic attorney attempting to access courthouse records. Attorney alleged Reeves demanded proof you're really a lawyer, despite proper identification. Complaint number 2, confrontational encounter with a black paralegal carrying files. Reeves allegedly questioned whether she'd stolen those documents before verifying her courthouse employee badge. Both complaints had been dismissed with notations like "officer was being cautious" and "no policy violation occurred." No retraining was mandated. No pattern recognition flagged the issue. The investigation expanded to examine broader courthouse security culture. What emerged was troubling. Security officers operated with minimal supervision and vague directives about maintaining access control. There was no clear protocol for verifying credentials when an officer had doubts. There was no escalation procedure requiring supervisor consultation before denying access. And there was no meaningful accountability when officers made errors. Constitutional law professor Jamal Thompson provided expert analysis in subsequent interviews. Officer Reeves didn't act in a vacuum. He acted as a product of a system that provided inadequate training, failed to address pattern complaints, and essentially told rookie officers to rely on their gut instincts rather than proper verification procedures. When those gut instincts are shaped by racial bias, consciously or unconsciously, you get exactly what happened here. A black woman with full authority being treated as a threat.
The case became symbolic. If the chief state attorney, someone with institutional power, legal expertise, and documented authority, could be assaulted inside her own building, what happened to ordinary black citizens interacting with officers who made the same biased assumptions? Civil rights organizations seized on the case as evidence of systemic racism within law enforcement. Protests were organized outside the Justice Building. Advocacy groups demanded comprehensive reforms. And Lena herself, once she'd recovered from her injuries, became vocal about the need for change. In an interview with CNN 2 weeks after the assault, she stated, "I was fortunate. I had credentials that should have protected me. I had a security officer advocating for me. I had multiple cameras recording. I had institutional knowledge of my rights, and I still got assaulted. Think about every black person who lacks those protections. Every person stopped by an officer who decides they don't belong somewhere. Every person whose presence is questioned, whose credentials are doubted, whose authority is denied based on appearance rather than evidence. This isn't about one bad officer. This is about a system that enables bad officers to act on bias without consequence." Do you think this exposes a bad apple or a rotten orchard?
The legal consequences for Officer John Reeves and the Miami-Dade Police Department unfolded on parallel tracks: criminal prosecution and civil lawsuit. The criminal case moved swiftly. The state attorney's office, recognizing obvious conflict of interest, referred prosecution to the Florida Attorney General. Reeves was charged with battery on a state official, felony; obstruction of justice, misdemeanor; official misconduct, misdemeanor. He pled guilty to all charges in exchange for probation and permanent prohibition from law enforcement. His statement to the court was brief. "I made terrible judgments. I let my ego override my training. I accept responsibility." He was 23 years old, 3 months into his career, and permanently barred from ever wearing a badge again. The civil lawsuit was more complex and more consequential. Lena filed in federal court under 42 U.S.C. 1983, alleging violation of her civil rights, and included state law claims for assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent training/supervision. Named defendants: Officer John Reeves, individual capacity; Sergeant Rinda Morrison, supervisory liability; Police Chief Robert Martinez, administrative failure; and Miami-Dade County, municipal liability under Monell. The damages sought: $10 million in compensatory and punitive damages. The evidence was overwhelming. 4 angles of video, witnesses corroborating every detail, medical documentation of injuries, expert testimony on bias, training records proving systemic negligence, complaint history showing pattern recognition failure. The county's attorneys evaluated the case and reached an unavoidable conclusion: this would not survive summary judgment. A jury would see the footage of a black state attorney being shoved for the ground for showing credentials, and they would deliver a verdict that would devastate the county's budget. Settlement negotiations began within 3 months. The county's initial offer, $2 million plus policy reforms, was rejected immediately. Lena's attorneys demanded full accountability: $10 million, comprehensive reforms, public acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and federal monitoring. The final settlement, announced 6 months after the assault: $10 million paid to Lena Porter for assault, civil rights violations, and emotional distress.